welcome to We Never Met, the podcast where I have interesting strangers on every single week. Today we have, you can introduce yourself.
Ryan Burns.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm good. We were just having a conversation about tea and coffee.
Yeah.
The essentials. And you are a musician, an artist, a writer. And we were sort of talking about that process. And so you drink tea before you write always?
Almost always. So before, I write. So,
does it get you in like the right mindset or something? Or
I was reading a book. I forget who it was by that was talking about before you're doing something creative, getting into that flow and having a process of going into it.
Yeah.
And I decided that I like tea. I don't drink it all the time, but I figure I had this romantic idea of sitting down right with like a steamy beverage next to me, and I don't like coffee, so it couldn't be that.
Right.
And so every time I sit down to write, when I'm kind of in that writing mode, I do that, and it kind of pulls me into that space.
Have you had writing sessions or things where you don't drink tea before, and is there a difference? Like, can you tell a difference between like the creative process, either or?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's necessarily about the tea itself,
just
but it's
like a placebo effect, sort of like getting you. Yeah.
Yeah. When I have the tea, it's the sort of thing I'm telling myself, like, all right, we're going to write. Let's push everything away.
Yeah.
And usually if I like don't have tea, I also didn't put my phone in the other room or something like that.
Is that another thing you do too?
Yeah. Or turn it on airplane mode. 'Cause sometimes you need it to record things. And
sure.
All that. But yeah, just if I didn't take the time, like the 5 minutes it takes to make a cup of tea, then I probably didn't do anything else to like just relax a little bit, make sure all the distractions are away.
Yeah.
So it kind of means I put aside the time I need to actually go and do that.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. And so like, what is your ideal writing situation? Like, what is your ideal space when you can go in and like really have a good session of writing?
So it has to be kind of it doesn't necessarily have to be anything, but the place. So over the summer, for a couple months, maybe 3 months, I sat down like every weekday, 2 hours every morning, at my desk. I have this desk in my music room, and I just have this notebook and I just start writing. And so it really, I found usually I do better writing when the desk is clean and there's not too many just things in my periphery that I'm like wasn't ready for. Like in that room, I know there's going to be instruments over here and this thing over here.
Right.
But sometimes if I'm like facing a window and then I look out and I'm like, oh, well, look at that person walking in, and I'm like, oh, dang it.
Yeah.
Which can sometimes be good if I'm trying to like figure out ideas, but usually it just distracts me, and then one distraction leads to another, and 2 hours.
You're not even writing anymore. You're like jumping rope in there or something.
Yeah,
it's something
like
different.
Oh, maybe I should research about like ancient Persian. That sounds cool.
That's what I do. Yeah, for sure. You get into like this one thing and you go down like a wormhole of like all these things.
Yeah, and you don't know exactly how you got there.
Right, but
like,
you're there. You're there now.
Yeah. So
that's interesting though, because you have an EP that you wrote basically in an art museum downtown, the Institute. So with that piece and knowing sort of how you write with limited distractions, was that tougher to do when it's in a public place, or did you just take the inspiration and go back and write?
So it that was a bit more piecemeal where the ideas came from. So, the Institute, that whole idea started, I was going through a bit of transition where I was trying to push more into my solo music thing. And, I was kind of having a writer's block. I couldn't think of what I wanted to write about.
Yeah.
I had like little melodies and cool little instrumental things, but so the first song off of that album that I wrote was called Earthly Paradise. Originally I had written it just one morning right as I was waking up, and it was about waking up.
Okay.
And it was objectively terrible.
Why was it objectively terrible?
It just was like it wasn't really about anything, and it was just like sounded like someone who was just rambling as they were waking up.
So you were displeased with it from your perspective after that?
Yeah, I was kind of lukewarm about it. I was like, I really like this melody.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the first person who hears my songs is my wife. Mm-hmm. And I played it for her, and she was like, no, those words aren't good enough for the melody. I mean, I think she was meaner about it, which is what I want. It's, usually, sidetrack a little bit.
Yeah.
So she's the sort of person that she won't really like a song until like this third or fourth listen to it.
Sure.
And so whenever I play a song for her, it's like, that's all right, or no, that's bad. And
she has to hear it over and over again to really come around.
Yeah, and so usually she doesn't really say it's bad, but it's just not going to work if she's like, no, that's not going to work.
Yeah. Sure.
And so it's...
What's a good system to have?
Yeah,
at least,
it is. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and that's why I like her, is she shoots me straight.
Right.
She's not trying to just be like, yeah, everything you do is great.
It's like, it can't be. That's impossible.
Yeah, no.
You like the melody of that song.
Yeah, so
the words didn't.
So she was like, yeah, those words aren't good. And I guess another little bit of history, I had written a song based on The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway.
Sure.
For this band I'm in, Distant Brothers. Another situation, I had this chord progression melody and a cool banjo part, and I was like, what am I going to write about?
Yeah.
Actually, funny story about that. The whole reason I did that was me and one of the other guys in the band, we were sitting writing it, and it didn't have any words, didn't have anything.
Sure.
He asked me what the name of the song was, and I said Pamplona. I don't know why I said Pamplona.
That's just the first thing came to your mind.
Yeah, just like, this sounds like Pamplona, which I think I was trying to say Paloma.
Oh, sure.
The cocktail.
Yeah.
Not Pamplona the town, but it came out Pamplona.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh crap, now I have to write a song about Pamplona. And so I researched, I'm like, oh, The Sun Also Rises is set in Pamplona. Oh, and so I'll read this book. And then I sort of like took some phrases from it and like fit them into lyrics.
Sure.
And so I did that. And I like kind of dabbled in some other songs that were based on different things. And so that afternoon or whatever, when my wife was telling me that the lyrics weren't very good, I was like, what do I write about?
Yeah.
And we are members at the Art Institute.
Okay.
And we have like a little coffee table book of like, these are some highlights from the Art Institute. And she's like, here, take this, write a song about one of them. And I opened it up, and it was to the page that was Earthly Paradise by Pierre Bonnard. And I was like, all right, I'll write a song about this piece of art.
Yeah. So how does that go? Like, what is the process like for writing a song based on a piece of art?
So most of the time I wasn't doing it too much where it was like literally trying to transcribe the aesthetic quality to certain notes or anything. It was more trying to find the story inside of the piece. And then once I found that, just kind of, I don't know what you'd say, meditating on it, seeing if anything comes of it. And with that one, I already had the melody, so I kind of knew what shape it had to be. And when you're writing, a process a lot of people do is they'll have some sort of melody and they'll just sort of
find words to like fit in it, or
David Byrne and a whole lot of people do this, where they'll have the track underneath and they'll just sing, and they'll sing it for like 20 minutes, and they'll just be like da ba da da do da da da, until sometimes you'll start hearing words in there that kind of just fit, or like certain melodic phrases just lend themselves just because of the accents to this word or another word. And yeah, so
is that how it worked pretty much for that?
Kind of. I also I knew I had certain, like, I mean, it was a painting, so I knew the image I wanted to talk about, like the hills in the background, like they had like green hills in the background. The foreground was Adam and Eve set in, like, just Adam was kind of looking off in the distance. Eve was still asleep in the morning or something. You could see the serpent up here.
Are you a very visual person? Like, do you see things visually, like or are you more of like a textile like person that likes to like feel it out and like, you know?
I'm probably like somewhere in between. I was always a very like spatial thinker. So yeah, it kind of depends on the thing. I guess I'm not too visual. Like, visual art was never a thing I was really drawn to that much until I got married, and now we're members at the Art Institute and we go there.
Really went a 180.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I've always appreciated. It's
sure,
just
you
never
just never
really
seeked it out.
Got into it very much. And so yeah, you had the story of Adam and Eve. You kind of knew that, and then I thought, like, it's about Adam and Eve, but it's kind of just about any sort of detached couple where he's just kind of like looking off in the distance and she's kind of looks content. It's hard to tell because it's very expressionist. And so I kind of had that idea, and I read through a few like other people writing about it. And,
was there any ones that were really tough for you to write on the EP based on the pictures, or did you just like flip past those ones and be like, that's too difficult, I'm not going to go there?
Yeah, it was, there's probably like 5 other songs that I had written for the EP that some of them didn't make it, or some of them I'm like, this is good, but we'll save it for later. So there's going to be, at some point, maybe a year or 2 down the line, an Institute Part 2.
Oh, cool.
Well, that's the plan. Who knows what's going to happen in 2 years, but because I have some other songs prepared for that, or like starts of songs. Let's see. The Cirque de Verre was a bit tricky, just getting the kind of the mood of it came pretty quick, and then getting the actual verses, it took a few iterations of that. That one was John Singer-Sargent painting. It has like it's set in the Cirque de Verre is the Winter Circus in Paris, and so I knew I wanted like weird Paris street music, like ba-da, da, ba-da, and sort of circusy. So it's like a demented circus sound.
I feel like, because looking at those pictures, I think it would be easy for me to sort of like see a story, but then it would be hard to convert that into a song. You know what I mean? Like, that seems like the tough process of like, oh, hey, like I can sort of interpret what I think this means, but like writing that in a sort of structure of a song seems a lot more difficult.
Yeah. It's, I'm trying to think. Sometimes you forget what songs were on an album. So yeah, we had Earthly Paradise, Cirque de Verre. The Bust of a Youth, that was a little tricky because all it is just a statue of it's just a bust. Of a youth. And they're like not positive who it is. They're like
that may make it a little more difficult.
Yeah. And so I just really had this statue, and I had to make up a story around it. And yeah, it was kind of a little bit about innocence lost and a little touches of like what the actual aesthetics of the statue were, but it was mostly. So some of the songs, I had the story from the painting. I had to figure out how to get the words to it. Some it was like, I need to find a story here. And sometimes it was just digging into like the history of the piece, or sometimes it was just kind of making up my own thing.
Because from what I read about you, you were introduced to music and stuff at a young age, but then you didn't really get into it until you were older. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's been a slow dive into music where I was like,
Right.
I had been in choirs in church since I was 3, and I did like the school band thing, trumpet and tuba and all that. And actually me and my brothers and sisters would be like in the family van harmonizing to Disney things, and we had specific parts for
Really?
specific songs. We were like, no, you're not you're not doing this part, you're doing this part, you have to take this. And so and then I started taking up guitar, and
Was this all
high
like
school.
in high school?
So the harmonizing, that was like elementary school, junior high.
Sure.
And
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 brothers, 2 sisters.
Okay, so big family.
Yeah. At that time it was the 2 sisters and 1 brother who would be doing that. Yeah. So I'd always been interested in music, and like when I was younger, I would really, me and my brother would listen to music every night when we were going to bed, which, we'd take one album and listen to it for like a month straight.
Oh,
And so I really got deep dives into those albums.
what was in heavy rotation? Like what albums?
Gordon by the Bare Naked Ladies
That's a good
was a
one.
big one.
Yeah.
There was a period where we did a lot of the Best of the Eagles, just the first disc,
sure.
not the second disc.
What's on the I don't even know what's on the second.
The second disc is all their stuff after they broke up and then came back.
Okay.
And so it got there's some really good ones, like 7 Mile Road, I think it's called, is a good one. But is that one something like that?
Yeah. Only the first disc though.
But the first disc I think was better.
Did you have to like listen to it quietly so your parents didn't hear it, or because did you and your brother share a room?
Yeah, we
Okay.
shared a room. My favorite album growing up, and kind of the inspiration for why I took up guitar, was Eric Clapton's Unplugged
Okay.
album. And so kind of in high school, I was really into a mix of classic rock and like blues.
Sure.
And that's kind of why I picked up the guitar. And yeah, I never really studied guitar though very much. I just was like, I want to play this song, I'll do it. I didn't take lessons.
Sure.
I just was self-taught. I got really into finger picking. That's one of the only things I actually studied a little bit. I was like, how do I do this
Right.
thing called Travis picking, where the thumb's always bum, 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 bum.
Oh,
bum.
sure.
And so that's like one of the only things I actually was like, let's look up a little bit of lessons of this.
Yeah.
But
Well, so what changed in your mindset from like that age to now where you're doing this full time and doing it for a career pretty much?
then in college, I was a physics major.
That's very different.
My freshman year, it's, I was always like a advanced student of math and science and things. They like had to cart me to a different high school to take my math classes my senior year, because there was like,
there wasn't a hard enough class for you.
yeah. I was doing like which calculus? It was some sort of
Any of them are
advanced
tough,
calculus, yeah. Not advanced calculus, like advanced for a high schooler calculus.
Sure.
And I always really liked it, and it was fun. I like math and science, but then my freshman year of college, I was going through a weird time emotionally, and like they took us and showed us the labs of people doing physics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, and they were explaining like, yeah, you do an experiment for 2 years, you setting it up, getting all the machinery set up, and you do all your equations for 2 years, and then you see if it works.
Oh, okay.
And then if it does or it doesn't, whatever, and then you go to the next one. There's something about it wasn't rubbing me the right way, and at that time, I probably had 4 electives I could have chosen that freshman year.
Yeah.
And 3 of them were like a music theory, a music history, and a intro to world music class. And I think I was just telling myself like, you kind of like music, Ryan.
Yeah.
You should maybe look into it. And that intro to world music class, I was just like blown away. We had sections on like West African drumming and gamelan and all kinds of different cultures and their music, and I was like, how do I do this as a living?
Right.
And I went to my professor and I asked just that. I was like, how do I take this and do this for school so I can be and she was like, yeah, you have to do ethnomusicology, and they're actually starting a major that you can start doing. You'll be like the first people to graduate from it if you start right now.
That's cool.
And so I became an ethnomusicology major, which is like sort of anthropology and music combined. And they just made the major. Before it was sort of like a Frankenstein, but now it was an official major. And I was one of the first 3 people at the University of Illinois to graduate with that degree. And so I loved it.
Yeah.
But then I got out of school, and then I was back to like, so what do I do with this?
Sure,
I really didn't want to go back to school.
And get like a master's or something like that. Yeah.
Partly because all the debt I already had, and partly just I wasn't in the mood for school at the time. And I did this traveling music ministry thing. It's called Captive Free, where me and like 5 other people, were put in a van and travel around like the entire west half of the U.S. from like Mississippi west. And we went to like every state out there and saw all kinds of stuff and did programs at churches and things like that. And I loved it. It was one of the best years of my life. I think what I really loved about it was like touring with the band, and that was really cool. But when I got back from that, I was like, maybe I'll go into youth ministry, which I did, and it was not for me. It was.
Why was it not for you?
It was. I mean, I liked working with the kids.
Yeah.
I didn't like working with the adults. It was like there's a lot of, I'm sure other churches would be great, but I've had other friends who did that, and just church politics always get in the way. And parents have one thing and then other parents have another thing. And then, so it just ends up being this whole political mess.
Yeah.
When all you're trying to do is like, hey, let's go play board games and talk about stuff from your life, and this will be fun. And so, and you try to make it that just for the kids, but then on the back of it, you're trying to do all these other things. And so
how long were you doing that for before you decided not to do it anymore?
Well, it was 8 or 9 months before the church council decided I wasn't going to do it anymore.
Okay.
Which was weird because they decided to let me go the day after like my most successful event. I had like the most attendance, and so it was a weird one, but
that is weird.
It just turned me off kind of to working in the church. And then there was just this whole period of what do I do with my life that I feel a lot of people
go through.
A lot of people my age go through, you know.
So how did you work through that and figure out like what you wanted to do?
Yeah, me and my friend Dan started this band. We called ourselves Distant Brothers. And it was right about the time when like Avett Brothers, Mumford & Sons, the Lumineers were all getting big. And so we were like, we should start a folk band. Neither of us play banjo or mandolin, but let's learn banjo or mandolin.
And you still do that now, right? You guys still play?
Yeah, we still play. We play a good amount. We play around the city. We got a residency at a place called Mantra Saloon. So we're still working a lot and practice a lot. But
so you had to learn a bunch of instruments then.
So yeah, I was like, oh, I should learn how to play banjo, and mandolin, and everything else.
Right.
There was a time when I was more into the mandolin side of things. I think just because it's more similar to guitar, but.
Is there double strings on each in a mandolin?
Yeah. Each string is doubled up, so it's 8 total strings, but 4 courses is what they're called. Right. Which I never use that term when I'm actually playing. You just call it 4 strings. And they're doubled.
So was it tough to learn that stuff though, or did it come pretty naturally to you?
So it came naturally to a point. There was a period of time when I was trying to just play banjo like a guitar, and I could do pretty well. I already did finger picking on guitar, and then after a while, I went through and started getting deeper and deeper. So I was like into the Avett Brothers, Mumford and Sons. And Avett Brothers still one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, me too. I saw them in Milwaukee. They were great.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Which one? That we saw them at?
It was last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
We saw them like 4 years ago.
Or last year.
When they played at Summerfest.
Oh, okay. Well, was that 4 years ago, you said?
I think so.
Was that when they were with Willie Nelson and all those other people, or were they just by themselves? Because they did like a tour with a bunch of people like Willie Nelson and all that.
Brandy Carlisle, not Brandy, was it Brandy Carlisle? I think Brandy Carlisle was opening for them.
Okay. Yeah, they're great live though. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I was really into that, and so I kind of started playing like Scott Avett does, where it's kind of a mixture of finger picking and a lot of strumming and things like that. And that's still a big part of my style. But I started getting more into bluegrass and like really hardcore banjo stuff. And so over the past 7 or 8 years, it's just been this slow descent into obsession with the banjo. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Is I just, that's what all I practice really anymore. I don't really practice guitar.
Sure.
Unless I have a song that needs it.
Yeah.
But I'll sit down for like an hour a day and do drills and stuff.
I love the sound of banjo.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is about it.
Yeah, and I don't know if anybody does. But
it's still a mystery.
There's a certain group of people who are just like, that banjo, it's something about it.
it's really something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just also a fun you have to really think about what you're going to be playing on a banjo. Especially starting out, because there's like so much going on, and when you're playing bluegrass music, you're playing like 600 notes every minute.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of think it out before you play. Otherwise you just end up a bunch of notes that
don't really make sense in any,
or they make sense, they're just kind of boring.
Yeah. I just had a bluegrass band on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, from Chicago, called the Wandering Boys. I don't know if
you've heard
of them. But yeah, it's something about banjo. I just really love the sound.
Yeah, it's a really fun instrument, and like I'm especially right now in a banjo heavy period of my life, because I went to this a Bela Fleck banjo camp down in North Carolina in August, and so.
Do they do both styles of like or the what is it called, a claw hammer, and then the other one is
3-finger.
Yeah.
So it was exclusively 3-finger style, kind of the bluegrass 3-finger style, and that camp was a bit more like they really pushed. So banjo has the 3-finger banjo has 3 main styles: Scruggs style, melodic style, and single string.
Okay.
Which they're similar but very different, and it was kind of a combination of those 3 styles.
For banjo players, like, do you pick a style and just pretty much stick to that, or is there flexibility? Is that how it usually goes, I guess?
Yeah, it's usually like you have gauges of how much of one or another you put in your style. So for me, like, I barely do any single string. I do quite a bit of melodic. And
what does single string even look like?
You use like your thumb and your index.
Oh, okay.
And you almost play it like you're flat picking a guitar.
Okay.
And so a lot of more progressive players do that, because you're able to play more complex scales with it.
Okay.
Because you don't use the open strings as much, so you can kind of go to weirder harmonic and melodic places.
Sure.
But
so what was the camp for? Just learning more about the banjo and stuff? And
yeah, it was just 5 days of, like, there were 100 people who came together. You had to audition to get into it, and you had like 4 sessions during the day where there were like great banjo teachers who would go over different parts, like theories and techniques and songs. And like every day would start off with like this hour-long Bela Fleck would just like noodle for 15 minutes, which was probably the coolest part of the day, is just sitting and like wake up, Bela Fleck plays you some music, and tells you what he was doing, and like talks about how you practice things, and then takes questions for an hour.
Yeah.
And then there would be like a concert every night, and then you would jam with all the other people till like 3 a.m. and then get up at 7:30 the next day and start all over again.
Wow, that's like a legit banjo boot camp.
Yeah. So for about a month, I was just like, I would practice like 3 hours a day.
Wow.
Just because I was so inspired. And then now it's down to like an hour or so a day. But
that's still a lot though, consistently. Yeah. So my question, like even going back further, is do you remember the first song like you wrote? Can you remember what it was about? Or why you decided to write a song in general?
So when I was a kid, I was always the sort of person who would like make up songs as I was doing a task. But it was never like an actual song. It was like making pancakes, da 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 da, and took on my shoes.
I still do that now sometimes.
Yeah. And I've actually stopped doing that. I think because now I actually write songs like that.
You have like a outlet for it.
Yeah, that part of me, I don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'll be too judgmental of myself when I do, probably.
That's not good. No one will make a song about pancakes.
Yeah.
Besides Jack Johnson.
Yeah. Or in Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Making bacon pancakes. That's a good song.
Yeah.
And it just makes me want to make bacon pancakes.
That's
do you want to get brunch after this, by the way?
let's go get brunch right now. I'm hungry.
Can we just take this to the restaurant?
Bring the mics.
Yeah.
So you would like write songs as you were doing stuff, but like, what was the first time you actually sat down and were like, I'm going to write something?
So the first memory I have of doing that, I was doing like a volunteer camp thing, and I was there with my brother, and me and him and our friend Colin, me and my brother were in a phase where we wanted to be Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, sure.
We came up with a band name, actually, Pining for the Fjords, based on the line from a Monty Python sketch.
Okay.
We never really finished a song. We started a lot of songs, and I think the first one I remember was just a song about Ogallala, Nebraska.
Okay.
We didn't know anything about it. Just the name was interesting to us, and it had the Ogallala, and so it was like Ogallala, la 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 la, and that's all I remember about that song. Wow. Not a good song.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. You never know.
It could have been. Yeah. So we were trying to write silly songs, and that's the first thing I remember. But the first song I actually finished was a song called "Beautiful Light," and that's like, I think I kind of went from 0 to 60 songwriting kind of right when that band formation started. Mm-hmm. Like before that, I hadn't really tried to write music. I just sort of I covered music.
Yeah.
And so when we started Distant Brothers, I was like, I guess I should write a song. And I think some combination of writing silly songs and doing the like putting on a sock sort of song.
Sure.
Prepared me for it, because I actually am I still play That Beautiful Light to this day. And it's on one of the Distant Brothers albums, and we play it all the time.
What's it about?
It sounds like it's like a romantic song about a girl. I saw the light and the light is you sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I think it was actually like a spiritual song about like my religious feelings at the time.
You just used more concrete things to describe it?
Yeah. And I was kind of going through a questioning period. I think that was right after also the youth ministry thing that happened. And so I was kind of in a very questioning place about like, where am I spiritually? What do I believe at this point? And so I try to put it out in a song. And
do you find that's a good way for you to like let out emotions and feelings and stuff, is to write about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm better about like managing my emotions since then. Mm-hmm. I'm usually a pretty introverted person. Like, I don't wear my heart on my sleeve at all. I kind of have one of those faces where I have one of those faces. I have one of those faces where I'm not very expressive most of the time.
Okay, I hear
I'm
you.
like, I don't have a lot of highs and lows outwardly, and
I
so
hear
when I'm playing my songs, that's kind of catharsis for me a lot of the times. And sometimes it's just a fun song and I write it and it's a lot of fun. But
Right.
some of them are like ways to get out those big emotions.
Yeah. When you play those songs again that you like, let's say that you do have like sort of a big emotional pull to, when you play them, do you feel that again? Like, do you feel how you felt at that point when you were writing it?
Yeah, some of them I do. Some of them, they like stay the same, but usually it'll like morph into something else. Like you wrote it about this one
Depending on what's
experience,
happening
and then,
in your life.
Yeah, you'll look at it from a different lens. You'll think like, or you'll write it about something. You'll be like, oh, there's this other completely different meaning that I wasn't paying attention to.
Isn't it crazy how the human brain is? Like, it's so complex, you know?
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of when you put music out in the world, that's what other people are doing. They're taking they'll look at a song and they'll put it in the context of their life, and it's a completely different thing,
right?
Than what you were thinking when you were writing it, and that's just fine,
right? So my question on that is, do you not like saying what songs are because you want people to sort of gather their own, or does it not matter?
I don't think it matters that much. I'm like, I don't think me saying that Beautiful Light was about me looking for my spiritual center or something is going to turn someone else off of what they thought it was going to be. So yeah, I don't really mind talking about it. I do kind of like, there's this phenomena where a lot of musicians back before kind of, there was so much ways to like social media and things that there was a lot more mystery around certain songs.
Sure, yeah.
Because you couldn't listen to a podcast where a guy's explaining, oh, this is what I was thinking when I was writing this. And so there's like this certain romantic idea of like, oh, the song's a mystery. But at the same time, there's knowing that context, then there's just more different ways you can look at a song.
Sure.
And it becomes more complex and meaningful. So it's,
doesn't matter either way.
Yes.
Yeah, but that is interesting you bring that up, because I was thinking about there's an account on Instagram that I follow that this guy, he shoots in all like VHS format. He like shoots the world in VHS.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool, but no one knows who it is. And so like, it's just like really mysterious thing of like, well, I'm interested for sure. And I think it's cool what you're doing, but I'm really interested in like, who is this person, you know, and how can no one figure out who it is in this day of like knowing pretty much everything on.
Yeah. And
that's interesting.
That is really like, I think that's an interesting thing for people to like go at the social media, with, as instead of being like completely open, which is kind of what it is. It turns into this whole other mystery.
It's like the very opposite of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. But it creates this like sort of, it creates more intrigue for sure. Cause you're like, how can we not know?
Yeah.
Like,
I know everything. I can just Google everything.
Right.
Why can't I know this?
It's like, like the DJs that put like stuff on their heads, you know, so you can't see who they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just an interesting concept. So like right now, currently, are you writing new music? Are you like cultivating new ideas for releases in the future?
Yeah. So I'm like in the process of recording a new album. Actually in the process of recording a new album or new music with the Distant Brothers and for my solo.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Double
project.
duty.
Yeah. Well, the Distant Brothers one has been like slowly percolating. We recorded some stuff like a year and a half ago. Okay. And then we like...
Is it a similar like folky style then?
Yeah. It's
to you?
Pretty similar.
Yeah. Because are you still at the residency that you have?
Yeah. So we have that second Monday residency at Montrose Saloon with Distant Brothers. I think that's all we have lined up for that. We might have some other shows lined up, but
I mean, the summer's coming eventually, so I'm sure
there'll be things.
Yeah,
we'll have shows pop up.
Yeah,
but
do you guys have like a website you can go to look at stuff?
Yeah, you can go to distantbrothersmusic.com and you'll find all the all the things you need to find.
All the things and all the necessary information.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when is that? Do you have like a timeline for when that would come out? Is it 2020 sometime? The Distant Brothers album?
Well, so the Distant Brothers that's kind of it's in the ether. It's been around for a year and a half. We're just kind of,
it'll come out when it comes.
When we have the time and the budget to finish everything, and it might just be like 8 singles, or it might be an album, or it might start one way and go another, or 2 EPs. Who knows what it's gonna be? But the solo stuff, which it still has a band playing on it and everything, is definitely coming out this summer, and it's going to be a full album.
How many songs is that? Like, how much is a full album? Because I never know EP versus full album versus,
Yeah, it's going to be between like 10 and 14, probably.
That's a lot.
It's depends how much fits on vinyl.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I've never put out any music on vinyl, and I just want to check that off my list of things that I've done. And so,
is there a cohesive like story to that album? Like, do all the songs sort of collectively fit, or is it just, are they sort of all different?
Kind of. So, world exclusive. The title of the album is going to be Static Year.
Okay.
And it's kind of, there was a period. So going back to a question you asked a while ago that I never answered.
Oh yeah.
I was getting there. Why I started doing music full time.
Oh, sure.
So all of those things that I've talked about happened, and then I kind of was doing odd jobs and things back and forth, and I started teaching lessons, and I was doing gigging. I was playing out a lot. I was doing Instacart. I had a few months doing gutter cleaning.
Oh wow.
I worked in the warehouse of a Sears doing like repairs for like lawnmowers and ratchets and things.
Okay.
Then I was sort of like in a stasis sort of situation, and I was like, I should start applying for jobs. I was looking for a lot of nonprofit arts, music sort of jobs. And I did that for about a year. I got a grand total of 1 phone interview from like dozens and dozens of applications and like reaching out to people, and it was miserable and terrible, and I felt like nothing was happening in my life. And then one day and I was kind of doing that because I had been kind of focusing on music, but I was maybe starting to get a foothold, but I kind of felt, it's just a lot of work trying to be a musician and get that foothold where you can actually do it as a living.
Sure.
And so I kind of felt guilty. It was like a couple of years after I got married. I was like, gosh, I was trying to find a job for about a year, like a real 9-to-5 sort of job, because I guess I had a little bit of that with the 8 months of youth ministry, but other than that, it was kind of like gig work and like 2 or 3 part-time jobs sort of situation. So I wanted to get like a nice full-time job and settle down and maybe do music on the side. That was the idea there for a year.
Yeah.
And then my wife was like, why don't you just do music full-time? And I was like, I can do that? I'm allowed to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
And so I just stopped applying for things and started being like, all right, what do I need to do to actually make this happen? And so,
what did you figure out that you had to do to actually make it happen? Like, what did you need to change? Just do more of it, or?
I just kind of had to get organized. I kind of sat down and was like, so what exactly do I want to just be a gig musician where I'm just like playing for other people? Do I want like to put my music out? Do I want to teach? Is the teaching good enough? Am I feeling good about that? And so kind of what I came around to, and this is where I started getting more serious about writing, where I really started like the tea drinking, getting into that process, is that I need to write more, get that sort of thing, like actually hone my craft instead of just sort of writing whenever inspiration struck me. And
so less doing it as a hobby, more doing it as a
and then like making the spreadsheets of contacts and venues, and I knew and that kind of to start out to make money, it's a lot of bars and breweries, cover gigs, that sort of thing. And now I have kind of enough of those to be at a nice equilibrium, and now trying to push more in my original music and more gigs at cool venues and things like that. Right. And so
less things that you feel like you're obligated to do to make money, and more stuff that you want to do.
Yeah. So kind of, I knew I wanted to find a place where I can be and not be like a financial burden. So I teach a lot of lessons. I have like 30 students right now.
Wow, that is a lot.
And I gig a lot. I have like 7 or 8 gigs a month usually. And so kind of between that, and I write some jingles for people, and like
really?
Do some like lyric writing for some people. And so a little bit of that. I wrote Irish drinking song about coffee for a Mack Trucks web series.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the biggest one I've done, but just like random little things like that. And so with all that, I'm at that place where I can get by and then focus everything else I got on putting out original music. And slowly I want that kind of less students, less bar gigs, more
original music,
touring. And
yeah.
So yeah, it was more just kind of getting organized and thinking like what my goals are 5 years out, that sort of thing.
Sure.
Which is something when like 8 years ago, I was like, I want to play music in a band.
Yeah.
Isn't the sort of thing you're like, well, you're going to have a lot of spreadsheets and
sure.
Go
Yeah.
network.
Something you think about. Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
So I have a question just based on so you started playing in a band and going by like doing solo music. So when you go like back and forth between those two, is there like a different mindset that you take into a band rather than your solo stuff, or vice versa? Or is it pretty much the same?
It's pretty similar. So one thing with the band, so with Distant Brothers, we were all, well, 3 of us were all friends growing up. We went to the same church. And then the bassist, he was a friend of one of us from college.
Sure.
And so we were like just a group of friends who were getting together to play music. And at some point, I think we had some big lofty goals, and then kind of they got everyone else got 9-to-5s and things like that, and which is perfectly fine. Like they all have their careers that they're pushing into, but there was like a period where I was really frustrated because I was like, but I really want to make this a thing.
Right.
I want to make this like my career. And for some reason, for a while, nothing in my brain clicked. Like I could still do this band and also just do
music,
my
by
own
myself,
music.
Yeah.
And so it's actually, since I started taking my solo stuff more seriously, it's really made the whole band dynamic a lot more relaxed and fun and enjoyable for everybody.
Because it's not like you're relying on that to push forward.
Yeah, because I'm not there being like, come on, guys, why aren't you taking this more seriously?
Yeah.
I'm just like, all right, we'll play when we can. If there's a couple months where you're traveling a lot or work's too busy, that's okay.
Right.
And so with Distant Brothers, that's kind of what it's become, is like, we'll do what we can when we can. I know we're good and I like playing with us, but I'm not relying on that for any portion of like my
your livelihood, or it almost like switched. It's like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to be in a band and I have a side project doing solo stuff, whereas you could sort of switched your mindset to be like, that's my main stuff and this is the side thing that I do sometimes.
And so the last year and a half I really kind of dived into that made the EP, and now I'm working on that album. I kind of have a semi-regular band I'm playing with, which gonna work on trying to like actually tour with them and start making this kind of more official little band sort of situation. So now it's circling around to, I still have all the logistical things of like, let's find when we can practice, and are you available this weekend? No, okay. But all of the guys in that band are a bit more full-time gigging musicians or have done that in the past, and so there's a bit more. It's still fun and all of that, but it's kind of more the ownership is on my end, and I'm kind of
facilitating that stuff,
that. Whereas with Distant Brothers, it's like, this is our collective thing, and we all kind of have to agree on everything to go forward, and we're just kind of we're still trying to do cool shows and record music and do all that, but it's more of like, we're friends and we like to hang out and play music. Where the other, it's like, I'm trying to set the expectation. It's like, this is trying to be professional about it, also still fun to go up on stage and play music. But that's kind of the dynamic difference, the two modes I'm going between. And I still do a lot of like the solo, the kind of craft brewery. How can I not say that word? And like kind of bar culture that is right now is really good for solo folk musicians. You can like, they actually like when someone shows up with a banjo and sings songs for them.
It fits the venue.
Yeah. And so I still do a lot of that and like tours just solo, but I'm trying to get that band to come around to,
So where can people find more information about like your music and all your social media and stuff like that?
So if you go to burnsband.com, just Burns, BURNS band.com, and then my social media handles at burnsband. So if you go, not on any of the social medias, like I don't really do Snapchat, and I don't know if I'm cool enough for TikTok yet.
I don't do either of those either. So.
But like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah. The old
the big three.
Yeah, the big three. Not the coolest ones. I'm not quite cool enough for TikTok.
I don't even really understand what TikTok is, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It just seems like short videos of people.
Yeah, it seems like, what was the one that was the 7-second video?
Vine. Yeah, which is back now too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could go on there if you want.
I was never on that either. But
I wasn't either,
I knew
really.
what that one was at least.
Right. Yeah, I feel like as I get older now, I'm approaching 30. It's like when they come out with new social media stuff, I don't even like try to figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, even Facebook, I want to not be on Facebook, but I feel as a musician, I like need it.
Right, for like events and
I can't like
releases.
have my artist page without having a personal page.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
And so it's like I'm stuck there. I guess I could make another personal page
and just not even use it,
and just like not friend anybody.
Right.
But I don't know.
Seems like a lot of work at this point for that.
It does.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
There's going to be new music coming in 2020 from you, which is cool. Are you excited about that?
Yeah.
You don't have to say the date, obviously, but do you know in your mind like a specific time period of like when you're going to release the full album, or are there going to be singles leading up to it?
There will be some singles leading up to it, but my target right now is for July of this year.
Nice. Right in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
A good summer release.
Yeah, so somewhere between June and August, probably.
Somewhere
we'll
there.
See. We're kind of halfway through the recording.
Okay.
And so we'll see.
Where are you recording it at?
A buddy of mine, Will Phelan, has a home studio in his basement.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, he's got like his drum set up there, all the amps you need, and yeah. So those two songs that came out in November, Amtrak to Albuquerque and Billionaires Are Dying, they were recorded with Will. The Institute I recorded just on my own in my own little home studio.
Oh, wow.
Did pretty much everything on there. And this one I'm trying to pull in more musicians I know and other people. But yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Say the website one more time so people can...
burnsband.com.
Yeah, awesome. Well, have a great day.
Yeah, you too.